Hello there, God Monsters. I hope that you're well. And since the last time we read a story, I hope you've had some toffee, because it's definitely my favourite. So, the last time we read was chapter 7, and that was when Beth made some toffee for Mr. Moonface. And they took it to Mr. Moonface, and they gave it to him, and he was like, oh, this is such nice toffee, but he put so much in his mouth that he couldn't talk properly because his teeth were all stuck together. And he couldn't stop Joe from going up through the clouds to the land at the top to see what the new land was. And Joe went up and he got swiped by a snowman. So now we're going to find out what happens after that. So this is chapter 8, Joe and the Magic Snowman. Moonface was most upset to see Joe disappear. I told him not to, he groaned. You didn't, sobbed Franny. Your mouth was full of toffee and all you could say was rah, 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 rah. And how could we know what that meant? Where's Joe now? Asked Beth, quite pale with shock. Yes, indeed, where was Joe? Someone had lifted him right off the ladder up into the land of ice and snow, and there, strangely enough, the moon and the sun were in the sky at the same time, one at one side and the other at the opposite, both shining with a pale light. Joe shivered because it was very, very cold. He looked up to see what had lifted him off the ladder, and he saw in front of him a big, strange creature, a snowman. He was just like the snowman Joe had often seen in the winter-time, round and fat and white, with an old hat stuck on his head and a carrot for a nose. This is luck, said the snowman in a soft, snowy sort of voice. What do you guys think a snowy kind of voice sounds like? When you send me a message, do a snowy sort of voice, and we'll see if you can do it. I don't know what it sounds like. This is luck, said the snowman in a soft, snowy sort of voice. I've been standing by that hole for days, waiting for a seal to come up, and up you come. Oh, said Joe, remembering that seals came up to breathe through holes in the ice. That wasn't a water hole. That was a hole that led down to the magic faraway tree. I want to go back, please. The hole has closed up, said the snowman. Joe looked, and to his great dismay he saw that a thick layer of ice had formed over the hole, so thick that he knew perfectly well he could never break through. What shall I do now? He said. Just what I tell you, said the snowman with a grin. This is splendid. In this dull and silent land there's nothing but polar bears and seals and penguins. I've often wanted somebody to talk to. How did you get here? Asked Joe, wrapping his coat firmly around him because it was bitterly cold. Ah, said the snowman, that's a long story. I was made by some children long, long ago, and when they had finished me, they laughed at me and threw stones to make me break up. So that night I crept away here and made myself king. But what's the good of being a king if you only have bears and things to talk to? What I really want is a good servant who can talk my language, and now you've come. But I don't want to be your servant, said Joe. Nonsense, said the snowman, and he gave Joe a push that nearly sent him over. Then on big, flat snow feet, he moved forward to where there was a low wall of snow. Make me a good house, he said. But I don't know how to, said Joe. Oh, just cut blocks of stiff, icy snow and build them up one on top of the other, said the snowman. When you've finished, I'll give you a warm coat to wear, and then you won't shiver so much. Joe didn't see that he could do anything but obey, so he picked up a shovel that was lying at the side of the wall and began cutting big bricks in the frozen snow. When he had cut about 20, he stopped to place them one on top of the other until one side of the house was made. He then began to cut snow bricks again, wondering all the time how in the world he would ever escape from this strange land. Joe had often built little snow houses of soft snow in his garden at home during the winter. Now he had made a big one with proper snow blocks as hard as bricks. He quite enjoyed it, though he did wish the girls were there too. When he finished, he made a nice rounded roof, and the snowman came shuffling up. Very nice, he said, very nice indeed. I can just get in, I think. He squeezed his big snow body inside and threw out a thick coat for Joe, made of wool as soft as white as all the snow all around. Joe put it on very thankfully. Then he tried to squeeze in after the snowman, for he wanted to be out of the cold, icy wind. But he was so squashed between the snowman and the walls of the house that he couldn't breathe. "Don't push so," said the snowman disagreeably. "Move up." "But I can't," said Joe. He felt quite certain he would be pushed right out of the snow hut through a hole in the wall. Just then a curious grunt came at the doorway, and the snowman called, "Is that you, Furry? Take this boy to your home under the ice. He's a nuisance here. He keeps squashing me." Do you know what? This snowman is not such a cool dude, right? Joe looked up to see who Furry was, and he saw a great white bear looking in. The bear had a stupid kind of look on his face. "Ooh," said the bear as he pulled Joe out into the open air. Joe knew there was no use to struggle. Nobody could get away from a bear as big as that. But the bear was certainly very kindly. "Hello," said Joe, with a loud grunting noise. "I don't know what you mean," said Joe. The bear said no more. He just took Joe along with him, half carrying the little boy, half dragging him, for Joe found it very, very slippery indeed. They came to a hole that led under the ice and snow, and the bear pushed Joe down it. To Joe's enormous surprise, there he found a big room underneath with 5 bears in it, both little and big. It was quite warm there too, so Joe was astonished. There was no heater, of course. Said the bear politely. Said Joe. That pleased the bears very much indeed, and they came over and they shook paws with Joe very solemnly and all over him. Joe liked the look of the bears much more than he had liked the look of the snowman. He thought perhaps that they might be able to help him escape from this silly land of ice and snow. "Could you tell me the way back to the faraway tree?" he asked the bears politely and clearly. The bears looked at one another and then at Joe. It was quite clear they didn't understand a word he had said. "Never mind," said Joe with a sigh, and he made up his mind to put up with things until he could find a way to escape. The snowman was a great nuisance. No sooner did Joe settle himself down for a nap, leaning his head against the big warm body of a bear, than there came a call from the snow house. "Hey boy, come here and play dominoes with me." So Joe had to go and play dominoes, and then as the snowman wouldn't let him come into the house because he said he was squashed, Joe had to sit in the doorway and play, and he nearly froze to bits. Then another time, just as he was eating a nice bit of fried fish that one of the bears had kindly cooked for him, the snowman shouted to him to come and make a window in this house. And Joe had to hurry off and cut a sheet of clear ice to fit in one side of the snow house for a window. Really, that snowman was a perfect nuisance. "I wish to goodness I'd never stepped into this silly land," thought Joe 100 times. "It's a good thing the bears are so nice to me. I only wish they would say something else beside Joe wondered what Beth and Franny were doing. Were they very upset when he didn't come back? Would they go home and tell their father and mother what had happened? Beth and Franny were upset. It had been dreadful to see poor Joe disappear through the cloud like that. Moonface looked very solemn too. He could speak quite well now that he had swallowed all his toffee. "We must rescue him," he said, his face shining like the full moon. "But how?" asked the girls. "I must think," said Moonface, and he shut his eyes, his head swelling up as he was thinking. He opened his eyes and nodded his head. "We'll go to Goldilocks and the 3 bears," he said. "Her bears know the land of ice and snow. She might be able to help Joe with that. She might be able to help Joe that way." "But where does Goldilocks live?" asked Beth in wonder. "I thought she was just a fairy tale." "Good gracious, no," said Moonface. "Come on, we'll have to catch the train." "What train?" said Franny in astonishment. "Oh, wait and see," said Moonface. "Hurry now, go down the slippery slip and wait for me at the bottom." And that, my darlings, is the end of chapter 8. We will move on to chapter 9 very, very soon. I hope you guys are well and you've had a good day and that you're being nice to each other and not fighting. And I hope that you're having good adventures. And I'll send you another chapter soon as I can. But send me some messages. I really love getting those messages. They're so cool. They always make me cheerful. I'll speak to you soon. Love you guys. Bye.